According to the Office of National Statistics, over 1.5 million people in the UK remain jobless. So why is this? Is it just bad luck? Is it laziness, as the monopoly-owned UK media likes to portray? Or is there something deeper and more deliberate going on? Today we're asking, unemployment, whose fault is it? Is it us or the people who lead us? To help us answer that question, we need to go back to the period after World War II. From the late 1940s to the early 1970s, the UK government, like many others, made full employment a primary goal. This wasn't just a nice idea. It was written into policy. Governments believed people had the right to meaningful work, and the state had a role in making that happen. They invested in housing, infrastructure, the NHS, and nationalized industries. If the private sector couldn't create enough jobs, the public sector stepped in. Unemployment stayed very low, often under 2%. People had job security, rising wages, and a sense of stability. Then came the 1970s oil crisis, where OPEC, a consortium of oil-rich countries in the Middle East, angry at the West's military involvement in the region, drastically reduced the supply of oil to the West. With oil prices quadrupling, energy costs soared, resulting in other prices rising across the economy. This triggered a period of high inflation and stagnating growth, what economists call stagflation. Rather than blame external shocks like OPEC's oil embargo, many economists and policymakers blamed something else, too much demand, or put more simply, too much money in people's pockets, and the idea that full employment gave workers too much bargaining power. So they started pushing the idea that keeping unemployment low would always lead to inflation. This idea wasn't based on hard evidence. Most bouts of inflation over the past decades have had little to do with people having too much money, yet this became the new orthodoxy. By the late 70s and into the 80s, everything had changed. Governments, especially under leaders like Margaret Thatcher, abandoned full employment as a policy goal. The new priority became inflation targeting. And how did they do that? By using the central bank to raise interest rates to slow down the economy. The idea being that higher rates would increase the cost of borrowing, resulting in less spending. This in turn would harm business, resulting in layoffs, fewer jobs in the economy, and eventually lower prices. In other words, they intentionally cooled the economy, knowing it would increase unemployment. And who benefits? The already wealthy, of course, who earn more income on their savings while they sleep. The theory driving this shift was something called NAIRU, the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. It sounds complicated, but here's the basic idea. If unemployment falls too low, inflation will rise. So the government should always maintain a certain level of unemployment to keep prices stable. Yes, you heard that right. A certain amount of unemployment is seen as necessary. The 1.5 million people without jobs serve a purpose, to supposedly keep inflation in check. You could look on it as a form of national service that the public don't even understand. But here's the catch. Studies in recent years have found NAIRU to be flawed. Economies have gone below the so-called NAIRU without triggering inflation, whilst others have had much higher unemployment and high inflation. Most recently, we saw central banks raise interest rates in response to price rises caused by supply bottlenecks due to war and weather shocks. These had nothing to do with people spending too much. So why are we still using it? Well, partly due to ignorance, mostly from bad economics, and partly due to wealthy beneficiaries having the most political influence. So can we go back to full employment? The answer to this is yes. One way to do this in our modern economy is by creating a job guarantee scheme. Under this system, the government offers a job to anyone who wants one at a decent wage, doing socially useful work in care, climate, community infrastructure, and more. It wouldn't compete with private jobs. It would act as a buffer, absorbing people when the economy slows and transitioning them when things pick up. Rather than endure the misery of having to look for jobs that simply don't exist, people could walk straight into a job if they wanted. This would spare us many of the adverse mental health effects of prolonged unemployment, whilst ensuring we're up to speed for when the economy improves. It's not a handout, It's a reframing of what work and security should look like in a modern economy. And no, it's not there as a Trojan horse to strip away the benefits system, although politicians are doing that anyway. So next time you hear a politician say, people need to get out there and work, ask them if they've ever heard of Nauru. The vast majority won't know what you're talking about. Remind them that unemployment isn't just a personal problem, it's a policy choice. And it's time we asked better from the system that governs our lives. Who should work and who gets left out is always political.